Alright, so again, I thought I would talk about dimensions, parallel realities, different timelines, density, and all these things, and physicality and non-physicality, because these things can be pretty confusing for a lot of people. So let me just kind of go through from the top down structure of the universe, the way I see things, briefly, to try to explain, to try to put all these things into perspective, you know. So I kind of see things, I see the whole universe just as one stream of energy, just as one infinite field of energy, okay? Now, infinity cannot be visualized. You know, you can try, but there's no way you're really going to capture what infinity is in a spatial, three-dimensional visualization of any kind, you know. It would have to be, the only way you could would simply be a white field or a black field or a unified light field or something. So, but in any case, so we have an infinite field of energy, right? From within this infinite field of it, and now this field is actually light, okay? Or it's also love, but it's more than any of these words can describe or encompass. But it is certainly, it is infinity, so all things come out of this, right? So it's the source of all things, but it's also all things. So it's the source of all things, but it's also all things. So this is what confuses, you know, most religious people and a lot of spiritual people even, is that the source of all things being the creator, and then they sense a separation, or they believe, or they see or feel a separation right there from the source to the creation, creator to the creation. But in reality, the creator is the creation, and the creation is the creator. They are one, for infinity is one. It cannot be separated. Okay. So, this infinite field could not go anywhere, could not become anything other than it was. And this is you, because that is all it is. So everything that is that, and you are that, because you exist. So you can't be other than that, because there is nothing other than that infinite source of all things. And because that infinite source of all things was already everywhere, it could not radiate out a creation. So it could not, there was nowhere for it to create something. It was already there. It'd be like you trying to build a house when you are the whole world. Like, so what is it going to do? What to do? The only thing that it could do was vibrate within itself. It could change the way it was formed, or composed, or perceived itself. Sorry, I have a lot of cats in here. I'm pretty sure I got cat hair on my face or something. But yeah, so it vibrates. It vibrated within itself in such a way that permutations within its movement, or the movement of the energies within it, in the same way that light waves can cross back upon themselves and destructively interfere or amplify. So they can cancel each other out, they can bend each other, and they can amplify each other. So there's several different effects that can be created through the interaction of light with light. and this is how, you know, you, infinity, created everything. Okay, so that explains basically how we create everything. So now, remember, infinity goes on forever. Forever. And it can be as big as it wants or as small as it wants. So within this infinite space, within this infinite self, once patterns of formations and waves of experience started to, you know, result, certain stratifications appeared, or like there would be areas of densification where, like this, if anyone's familiar with the two-slit experiment, where you know, they discovered the duality of what, you know, of light, or of electrons, or photons, that they can, you know, either be seen as a wave or a particle. And in the two-slit experiment, you know, I'm not going to get into, everyone has probably heard it by now, you know, or just type in two-slit experiment and you'll understand. But in that same way, where patterns of light would appear on a photon screen, you know, with the two slits, areas of darkness, areas of light, areas of darkness, areas of light. Okay, so these patterns that are created from light interacting with itself in this way, which is again how we started to create, you know, our own dream, to understand ourself. It is beyond, the purpose of it all is beyond human expression with words. That's the truth. But, you know, you could say that to understand ourselves, to love ourselves, to play with ourselves, to, what else were we going to do, right? It is beyond human words. But in any case, this can be seen as the expression of dimensions, levels of stratification, of density, okay? So the third dimension is made of the same stuff as the fourth dimension, or the fifth dimension. And they're all in the same place, which is what? Here, infinity, because there's nowhere else to be. But the experience of them is radically different. The experience of them, because of, or at least from the perspective of an individual within them, it's radically different. Of course, from unity, none of that even exists. You know, from the perspective of infinity itself, or the all that is, or the one original, which is us, you know, because there was never anything but that. So you are that, I am that. Excuse me. Oh, okay. Such a good one. Okay, so yeah, so levels of density or dimensions started to exist, okay? And density and dimension are basically, they're basically the same thing, except that dimension, you know, is the actual level or realm of experience. Density is the vibration, or the amount of light density, or the apparent lack of light, depending on how you're talking about it. That's how normal human density, the classification of density, which human scientists describe as mass divided by volume. Okay, so that actually is the apparent lack of light, or the areas where light has been destructively interfered with, you know, the gaps. So, Yeah. But density, as described spiritually, would be the opposite. When they say your density, the density of a being, that is talking about light quotient, light density. So the amount of light expressing from the body, from infinity, or the apparent lack of destructive interference, or purity of light source original, which would be up to 100% light quotient within the body, which would be a 5D body, a crystal light body. Okay, so where was I at? All right, so that's the basic structure. Okay, now let's go into how it's arranged and how we're experiencing it, right? So let's start from the 7th down. Okay, there are dimensions of experience above that, but they're just too unrelatable, really. But the dimensions above 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever, and whatever on goes on to unity, I don't know, to the one. They're involved with the construction and design of the universe itself, of this universe, of the 7 dimensions below, put it that way. They are the governors, creators, designers of the 7 dimensions below. So this is be the realm of the Elohims, of the archangels, great archetypical and collectives, archetypical beings and collectives of intelligence. So, but anyways, for the individual experience that we're going through, and the joint collective experience also, but from the individual perspective, the 7th down is going to be more vital, more understandable, relatable, because, hey, all right, have fun. Sorry. You want to play? Go. Because the 7th down is the beginning of individuality, of individual expression. So this is the first level where we, the children of God, have individual experience. Now, when I say we have individual experience from the 7th, yeah, when I say that the 7th is the first level of individuality, I don't mean this you. I mean what I consider to be the real you, which is the oversoul, right? Which these are the children of God. These are the original creators, right? Like, as I described it before, as the sun, as the star radiating light, and each beam of light can be seen as the souls. And I've also described before how the souls break into soul fragments and create personalities or egos, which go and experience different worlds, timelines, civilizations, different backdrops, different stories, if you will, of experience. And all this experience is relayed back to the soul from the different personalities or soul fragments or egos, which are traveling from life to life to life until finally they are purified, and brought home. Or they've realized that they never left, whatever. But it is all an illusion. So we're not actually going anywhere. So that's why this can be confusing sometimes. Because it seems like we're going somewhere. It seems like we're evolving. It seems like we're becoming, and we're going home, and we're on this journey. We're not actually going anywhere. We never actually went anywhere. We are that now, Now the reason I can understand this while still not being fully in unity or back now is because our consciousness can travel up and down the ladder. It's unbound, and we are that. So you can experience the totality of your being from this position. You know, you have to let go of this position in the experiencing of that. You can't be them at the same time exactly, you know, but you can move back and forth, you know, in them. Okay. Okay, so from the 7th, we project ourselves into the 6th, okay? And there is a division from the 7th to the 6th, meaning, or the appearance of a division, meaning we project more than one of ourselves from the 7th into the 6th. And then generally from the 6th into the 5th and 4th and 3rd and on, like as we go down, we project more and more of ourselves, so that the soul, so that the original 7th dimensional being, which is projecting itself down into the lower densities, and you can think about it as light as it goes down, like through a prism or through water, or it is bending, and you see the different colors spread out, you know, like that Pink Floyd prism cover, you know. So it's like this. So as it's going down, it appears to spread out, and it appears that there are more and more and more and more and more of us, and we go out and have more and more and more and more and more experiences. Okay, but it's all really the one stream that emanated out. So by the time that we're down to the 3rd, it is my understanding that we have 144 personalities. Now, I don't know if that number is actually accurate. I cannot say from here with certainty. It does feel accurate to me. It does feel accurate, and I do know it is something like that. It is something like that for sure. And there are mathematical and geometrical reasons to believe that it is 144, or perhaps an interval of 144. It could be perhaps 144 to 288 or something like that. Or it could be just an average, and that there are no rules, and others could have different numbers. I'm not sure, and it just doesn't matter as long as we understand that this is basically what's happening, you know. Okay. So the 7th dimensional experience, as much as I can relate it here, or let me say this, the only experience this personality here, not the totality of me, not my 7th dimensional self, obviously, but this version of me that has some understanding of limitation, and that there is, because the higher dimensional versions of me don't apparently have any kind of lack of knowledge. There's just infinite knowledge there. Like, so this version of me that doesn't know everything in the universe, let's put it like that. So this version of me only has a little bit of understanding of the 7th dimension. I mean, beyond conceptually, I mean experientially. So from this life and perspective that I remember and recall from here, I have only had a few experiences of the 7th dimension. So I will relate to you as best I can in words what those experiences were like, to try to give you an understanding of the 7th dimension. It was like one infinite field of light. So and this is an important distinction that I want you to remember from my experience that I will describe to you of the other dimensions. Okay. So again, just light, brilliant, white, golden kind of light, okay? Now, anyone who's studied the Course in Miracles, if you've like listened to all the books, like if you've gone like through the whole series, you'll recall that in the end of it, they describe the kingdom of heaven. And he literally says, remember your home, remember golden light, remember light as far as you can see, right? So this place of golden light, that's what I call the seventh dimension in our true home, okay? Because that is the level where we created individual selves in individual avatars or forms. Now, we don't often take those forms, but they do exist because they were projected or created. I'm not sure they existed prior to our experience in the lower dimensions. If you could say there is a prior from there, I'm not even sure, but they come about from the interrelation of having the forms and bodies down there, meaning our higher selves, knowing that our lower selves have bodies and are experiencing these kind of forms, have chosen avatar forms for themselves to appear in relation to each other, but only to each other because of their experiences down here. Are they choosing to ever interrelate that way? And that is probably too for the experience of those below that are interrelated and connected, because those things all affect everything is interconnected and holographic. Okay, remember that too. Everything is holographic. Everything is one. Everything just reflects out over and over and over and creates permutations of itself. So my experience in the seventh is from where I was, I still had a body. My body was not there. I was just aware of it here. I was projecting out, kind of, more, but it was all around me. I couldn't really feel my body or anything, but I was aware that that I still had a body, that I was perceiving. But I kind of projected out into the experience also, I guess. No, I did, yeah. Oh yeah, no, I astrally projected, I guess, or if you want to call it astral. It was way beyond the astral. Yeah, it is really hard to explain this experience, but I still did have an awareness of my body. So that kind of awareness or tie, well, maybe I always have an awareness of it there while it exists here. I don't even know. I don't know. That's what I mean. It's hard to explain higher dimensional experiences when you come down or are from the perspective of the lower dimensional state. Like, try to explain seeing a six-dimensional object, or something like that. Like, you can see things in the higher dimensions that just don't even make sense here, and there are colors there that don't exist to us here. They cannot be described. There are whole sensations, like we have smell, taste, all that, but there are other senses, lots. Look at animals out there. There are lots of animals out here that have senses that we don't experience. All sorts of different senses that we don't experience. So, and that's only a few of the varieties that are possible. In the higher dimensional states, there are many, 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 many more. So it simply cannot be, we don't have any frame of reference for some of these things, okay? But again, so I experienced it as just radiant light, but it wasn't all just golden. There was some colors, okay? There was some patterns that started to appear. And I noticed that there apparently were like these giant globes of light. Now the contrast between the globes and the light around it wasn't that great. Like, not like here where there's dark and light. Everything was light, like glowing light. Just one, you could just barely tell that there was something there. And I don't even know if I could see it visually at first, but I just knew. But once I focused in on these globes, then I realized they weren't just globes. Some of them were like geometric patterns, and I think it's however they want to express. But these are like collectives, like giant soul collectives, right? And when I went into them, they're like cities or worlds or kingdoms or realms of experience. And that's where each of us has our home within these collectives, you know, our seventh dimensional self. But they're all one too, so it's like my seventh dimensional self like found its collective but was also the collective. So like I was that. Now I'm not sure if my seventh, this me, if my seventh, well, I guess I'm all of them in the seventh dimension, that whole collective, I guess, the whole pattern or globe. But this me is there too, kind of, my higher dimensional expression inside of that collective, because I am part of that, because I am an expression of that. And that's what we all are, right? Okay. So, my experience of the sixth dimension. So from the seventh dimension, these collectives express out, or, you know, extend into the sixth, right? And my experience of the sixth, instead of a place of just light, was a place of darkness and light, a place of patterns of darkness and light. But the main distinction was the background of it appeared to be darkness. So like just pure void, just pitch black. Within that void, there was radiant lights, like stars, like diamonds, arranged in huge sweeping geometric patterns as far as I could see. And I was one of those lights. Okay? Now, that was my experience of the sixth. Now, this is non-physical. Again, there was physical experiences there, because when I was there, I could have anything I wanted. So I could, like, if I wanted to be in this room and experience this, boom, I was there. But the minute that I let go of that little dream I was creating, I was back in the place of stars and space. So that was that's what I mean. It's a non-physical place, but we can have physical experiences there. That's where we create and play with the ideas and concepts of physicality. That's where we start to create the idea of having bodies and all that. That's where we play with what we want to look like. That's where we design everything. And that's where we interact and plan with each other, these dreams. So, and that's important to remember too. So we are non-physical beings dreaming physicality from the sixth. Okay? So physicality really starts at the fifth. Now, so a fifth dimensional being that has a fifth dimensional body, that is generally an immortal, eternal body. They don't have the concept of death in the fifth dimension. They may change forms. They may give up the fifth dimensional body and return to the sixth, if you want to see it that way. Or all energy may be brought home at a certain point in the stories. But they will not be forced into death, or it will not just happen that they need to die. You know, that does not exist at that level. So, and then the fourth dimension, and again, at each one of these we are projecting like versions of ourselves and more versions of ourselves. So like once we got from the fifth into the fourth, this is where we introduced time, okay? And the purpose of this was compression, was to create more energy and torque for expansion in the higher dimensions. That's the best way I can explain. I've seen the purpose, the true purpose of the third dimension. I mean, there's lots of purposes, and again, it cannot be explained in words, and if I had to explain the true purpose of creation and the universe, and especially creation of the lower dimensions, it would take me a long time. It would be a lot of words if I could explain it in words, and I can't. It can't be done because it is beyond measurement here. But to kind of summarize what I saw to understand it all was, you know how like when a skater starts to spin, wants to spin faster, like an ice skater, they bring their body tighter to create more spin, right? So in that same way, or if you can understand, you know, like how gears work or torque, at a certain dimensionality, like as the pressure goes down or the density goes down in the lower dimensions, that pressure creates more energy or intensity to all the experiences here that really drives us to creation in the levels above. And in a sense, it is the engine that's driving expansion into the higher dimensions. Because, put it like this, if you know you can't die and someone puts a gun to your head, you're not going to be scared. You're not gonna care. You're not gonna, you know, fight them. There's not gonna be any intensity to the experience, because you're just gonna be like, oh, whatever, man. Pull the trigger if you want. You know it's not gonna hurt you. You know you can't die. You know. So the belief that you can die and the temporary experience of death and the transition and all those things creates the intensity to the whole experience. Well, that emotional intensity and energy is radiating out, and as it radiates out, it grows into the higher dimensions and ripples out there and expands the other way, sort of, for them, you know. So that's kind of the real purpose of it all, is expansion of our higher dimensional selves, which had reached a certain realm. I mean, this is why we created the realms that include suffering, pain, loss, and the whole idea of death. Death and the different timelines, the different versions of us, was so that we could maximize experience within each environment or realm of experience, so that we could maximize, so that we could play everything each way. Oh, you want to be a pianist, or you want to be an artist, or you want to be an architect, or you want spiritual understanding. All these things, you can play them every way in all these different timelines. So that was the purpose of the fourth, really. All right. So a lot of people are having confusion about we are supposed to be moving into the fourth density. Isn't the fourth density in the fourth dimension? But isn't the fourth dimension where we go when we dream, or in between lives when we die? You know? Yes, but see, there's a difference between fourth density physical and fourth density non-physical. Okay, so the fourth density body that we experience when we go to sleep at night is our fourth density non-physical body, which is only an expression or connection to our sixth density non-physical self, basically. That's like, you could see it like a cord running through, okay? So there is a reflection of that in the fourth that is connecting us to our third dimensional bodies, okay? Now, I've also said in the past that that the third density Earth has already ended, and we have left the third dimension, and we are currently in the fourth dimension. And I still feel that is true. But let me try to explain what I mean by that, because some people that's going to sound crazy. Some people believe that, but they may not, even if they believe it, they still might not understand exactly what I mean by this. So I'm trying to get everyone an understanding or a vision of the way I actually see the physical realms. The third density physical realms, and the fourth density, and even the fifth density physical realms. But let's leave the fifth out for right now and just look at the fourth and the third. Okay. So if we imagine the fourth dimension as a non-physical, etheric realm, right? A realm of, just think about when you dream, right? You could be in a world like this, but you could also be floating in space. It can be anywhere and everything, or nothing. It could just be a realm of black. Like, all these things can be reflected. All these experiences can be reflected in the fourth dimension. So I see it just kind of like as a realm of like bluish, purplish. So there's all kinds of different colors actually in the fourth, to the actual background of the non-physical kind of realms of it, where you're not just standing in a world, where you can just be floating in clouds or something like that, or swimming through water, or some kind of experience like that in the fourth. Okay, that's kind of the true fourth dimension, the non-physical one. That's how I see these realms. The non-physical first, then the physical extends from that, and that's because the physical realms are an appearance within the non-physical realms. So the fourth dimension non-physical, or non-defined, we could just see as etheric or astral substance, right? That's what they call it, astral substance. So there are astral beings that live fluidly, being able to take shape or not within that astral medium, okay? And the souls all have non-physical bodies there, and that's what we're in when we die. And that's where we go when we dream, into our non-physical, liquid, kind of fluid astral body. However, that's different than a fourth density civilization, like the Pleiadians or the Greys or something like that, right? But they are also existing in the fourth dimension, within that astral medium, right? They are made of that astral substance. So what then is the difference between them, the physical fourth dimension beings, and the astral fourth dimensional beings? So the way I see it is, within that astral medium, well, if you'll notice when you're there in your dreams, if you've ever had a lucid dream, or if you've ever astrally projected, you'll notice you can kind of take on whatever shape you want. You can kind of take the world around you will change as you interact with it, according to what you think, and you'll go wherever you want to be, right? So that means that astral medium, since we are made out of it as souls there, and since the environment is also made out of it, and we're the same thing, that means that our consciousness there affects the consciousness of all the astral medium around us. So the other souls there, and the other beings there, they form the environment of the astral they are in, as do you. So that means that if you sit down and you imagine a room, you'll see it. But if two of you sit down and imagine a room, you'll get something of a combination between what you're both seeing. If two of you are imagining the room in a very harmonious way, then you'll really strengthen the vision of that room. Now, what about when there's 4 of you, 5 of you, 1,000,000 of you? Envisioning the same room, the same house. How detailed would it be then? How real will it seem then? Okay, so this is how I see the fourth density, like Pleiadians and fourth density physical civilizations, this is a collective of fourth dimensional souls that are sharing in the co-creation of a civilization with very concrete, defined parameters, or at least compared to the non-physical astral experiencers, right? The third dimension I see as the same thing. A group of fourth dimensional souls, or soul fragments, whatever you want to call it, are coming together to co-create in the astral a very concrete, defined experience that we call the third dimension, and the third dimensional body and all that. You know, Bobby? So it's not actually in a different place, it's just a very dense, defined part of the fourth dimension. Does that make sense? So I see Earth basically as a group of souls, like you could see them just sitting in a circle basically, or just floating in a circle, all dreaming the Earth together. And then there's another group of souls dreaming another place in the fourth dimension. And then in between them, there are areas of experience where there are far less souls playing. And those areas are far less defined. They're just like, just like etheric substance, like floating in a cloud. And you can go there and be alone if you want. Or you can join a collective of experience, which creates a physical realm or world. Well, if enough of them come together and have the intention of creating more limitation, more definition to the parameters, then you create a third dimensional experience. So understand, it's not crazy when I say that we're truly in the fourth, because we've always been in the fourth. The ending of third density, when I say third density has already ended, what I truly mean is that from the higher dimensions, we have already chosen that. We have chosen to end that experience, okay? That doesn't mean it's all phased out yet. But from the higher dimensions, outside of linear time, that decision's already been made, it's already happened. Those ramifications have already happened there. It just has not filtered down to the very densest of third density yet, of third density experience yet. So third density, or you could see it as third density is still having echoes into fourth density. But we as a civilization are moving into fourth density experience because the souls are choosing that experience. They are dreaming a new dream. They are redreaming the dream. But now imagine all the souls of Earth, if they were just floating here, right? But with each one of them is still having their own perspective experience and dream, right? They're all sharing and co-creating a dream, which means they're dreaming similar dreams. Like they're all dreaming of a place called Earth, all of us. All of us fourth dimensional souls are dreaming of a third dimensional place called Earth. And it all shares some similarities. But certain groups of souls are dreaming more similar things. Like this group over here that's vibrating together is dreaming of America. And this group over here is dreaming of Africa. And this group over here is dreaming of Asia. And this group over here is dreaming of this timeline. And this group over here is dreaming of this timeline. And this group over here is dreaming of this, like that, right? Well, at a certain point, from the fourth dimensional perspective, which is the non-linear time perspective, meaning it's really hard to explain, but it's more of a vibrational completion or process completion that's happening from the higher dimensions. So when enough of the fourth dimensional souls have had enough experiences or dreams that they choose to start to share a whole new dream, then that's what will happen, and that's when it is time for ascension, when this collective has learned all it needs to learn. Now remember, we're all learning together. Like we're all sharing in this co-creation and learning in the game that we're playing together. Now remember, we're all also infinite perfect expressions as we are. We can just stay non-physical, beautiful beings of light. We don't have to take a body and ever do any of this stuff, right? But in the doing of it, we are learning, evolving what we are doing and what we want to do and what we want to be within these things. And we have chosen to dream a new dream. There are other souls currently in the collective which are not joining the new collective the new earth that is being dreamed. So they will dream a new dream somewhere else. They wouldn't have to, if you understand the fourth dimension, like the astral experience, they don't actually have to relocate. They just dream a new dream. They just change their own vibrational state and experience enough that they are just then separated from each other, because vibration is location, kind of. It's all part of one thing there. Like you will just be in a new place with another group that is more similar to you if you change the way you're vibrating. Like, for example, in the astral, if you were like dreaming yourself in any location, doesn't matter. Let's say you're just being chased by something. Something wants to hurt you and you're scared and you're flying away or you're running away, however you are. You don't actually have to flee away, though. You could just, there's several ways you could do it. You could just will yourself to be somewhere else. You could imagine yourself to be somewhere else. But you could also just be happy, be joyful, be free. Because your freedom, your joy would not coincide with this experience and reality and vibration of this one who's chasing you, or the experience of being chased, or any of that. And you will simply be somewhere else. Like you would just move to a higher okay, because you can see the astral is moving out spatially, left, right, up, down, sideways, and more in, out, in ways that we can't fully grasp here, and quite a bit more spatial directions because of time, okay? But, so, you can also, but that's only one way to move around the astral. You can also go up, you can also move up in vibration. So I don't mean moving spatially up, like flying up. You can also change vibration to access different stratifications or levels within the fourth. And there's a lot of those. So, like, there are a being that's in the upper vibrational levels of the fourth dimension would not be observable by a being that's in the lower realms of the fourth dimension. Or if they could, they would only be able to perceive them as like a glowing ball of light or something. They wouldn't be able to see like what they really are, because there's quite a bit of difference between those two stratifications. But just like a third density being, which is truly just the densest, a further densification of a fourth density or dimensional being. Because again, we're still there. So, but the different timelines are different than moving to a higher density or collective. So like when people are talking about, oh, we're on a lower timeline, a higher timeline, it's only kind of an experience that we're having now, these different timelines merging. It's more that the different streams of consciousness that are here are merging, so the different stories kind of and perspectives of the world are coming together. That's another way you could see it. But yeah, so because like when we say the Mandela effect, right? This is because different souls are beginning to merge their divergent perspectives of things. That's really how I see this now, the different timelines, because the timelines are only beliefs held within the souls, that these things have happened in a particular way, In any case, I hope any of this has made sense, but again, that's different than the whole collective ascending. So that when that happens, there won't really be any lower timelines on Earth to exist. So there isn't any real worry about a lower timeline or higher timeline. There's only going to be one timeline for Earth, yeah, because we're leaving linear time. So.